Okay, we're going to do this percent word problem. This is a little bit beyond what we're working on right now, but some of you are ready for this. So, at a construction job for a mansion, 15 painters were tasked with painting the interior. These painters made up 60% of the entire painting crew, so how many painters in all worked on the job? So when you're working on a percent problem, there's a few things that you need to know. If you have a percent in the word problem, you know that you can start with that. So we're going to solve this using what's called a proportion. And a proportion is, we've done a few of them in class already. A proportion is two equal ratios or two equal fractions. So like, for example, proportion example, 1/2 is equal to 2/4. Okay? So there's a lot of information that I'm going to give you with this one video. Okay? So we're going to use a proportion to figure out the answer to this problem. So first we know we have 60%. Okay? So we don't need to find a percent in this problem. And we already know that percents are always out of 100. So to start my proportion, I'm going to make 60 out of 100. So 60 is going to be out of 100. So that's my percent, written as a fraction, and that's going to be the first half of my proportion. Okay? So I want to make this equal to something so that I can figure out how many painters there were altogether. So, in this problem, it says that 60% of the painters were tasked with painting the interior, and that was 15 painters. Okay? So that's saying these painters made up 60%. So in my proportion, we're making things that are equal to each other. And so 60% is represented by 15 painters. That 15 is going to go right across from the 60. Now we have, this is what we need to find out. We need to find out what 100% of the painters were, right? Because it says these painters made up 60% of the entire painting crew. So how many painters in all worked on the job? Right? So we would need to know, in all that would be considered 100% of the painters. So the 100% would go across here. That's what we have to find out. So we can say that this is X for right now. Now there's a couple of different ways to solve this, but the way that we've done so far, and it'll work for this one, is we can figure out how does 60 become 15. So let's see. There's a couple different ways you can do it. I already know that 16 divided by 4 equals 15, but if you're not sure, you might say, okay, well, 15 times what equals 60? Can 15 be multiplied by something to equal 60? And then we could also say 60 divided by 15 equals something. So in order to figure out what this number is going to be, we got to figure out how 60 can become 15. And so we could do the same thing to the bottom. So 60 to become 15 would definitely have to be divided. So I'm going to just say 60 divided by 15 to figure out what that would be. 15, I already know it goes in 4 times. So 15 times 4, 1 times 4, so 60. Okay, so then I know that 60 divided by 4 equals 15. So I have to do the same thing to the bottom to get that 100, the number that's going to be considered 100%. because we're going from percents to numbers of painters, okay? So 60 divided by 4 is 15. 100 divided by 4, I already know it's 25, but you could always do the division problem. 4 goes into 10 twice. 2 times 4 is 8. 2, bring down that, and 4 divided by 20 is 5. So x equals 25, which means there are 25 painters in all. Now, this is not the only way to solve this problem, but this is a good way to solve percent problems because you can really set up a proportion for any type of percent problems. I'm going to do another video for how to find the percent. But that's all for now.